Coming live from Edmonton, Canada, our guest tonight. Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry and information or simply learning from them. And today we have JodieLynn Craven, financial educator and advisor, Fluid Money Blueprint creator. And she will share with us some exclusive tips on how to consistently attract money to do the things that you truly want to. Welcome to the show, JodieLynn.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And we are also very happy to have you with us because you are talking about money. So this day is special in terms of because we have got a very lovely guest from Canada. And secondly, you are going to talk about money, which is again a lovely thing for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So, JodieLynn, tell us about uh, why is it that some people are rich, some people attract money all the time, and some people do not? Just let's start from there.
It's a loaded question. That has been the answer to that question has been the journey of my life.
Yes.
So I'm going to tell you a little bit about that journey because I think that it's really important. When I was in my early 20s, I purchased a home at the boom of the economy with my then boyfriend. And then fast forward a couple of years, the relationship wasn't going well. It wasn't what I wanted, but we had a huge crash. The housing market collapsed. The economy had collapsed. This is 2008 collapse. And
Right.
my house was worth half of what we had purchased it for. So walking away from that relationship was really difficult because it was also a choice or a decision to tank my entire financial life. So it sent me on this journey of understanding. I had this desire to understand how money works and what I did wrong so that I didn't repeat those past mistakes. So I entered, I was, I had a great career at that point. But I decided I was going to enter the financial industry part-time. I was going to become a financial broker. I started doing that, fell in love with that. A few years into that, I started to see that, I could free up money for somebody, even $1,000 a month. And this wasn't rare. This was often that I was doing this client after client. And then I would build this beautiful plan, to get them out of debt and to get them into a better position. And, the next 5 years of their life were going to be completely different than the last 5 years. And I would come back in a year and they would be in a worse position than when we started. So I started to see that there was this energy behind money, that there was more to it than just the ABCs of money. You take $50 or $100 and you save it. There was more than just the understanding of the third dimension, I call it. There was also this mindset side of things that was missing. And then this energy, this frequency piece. So that has been, answering that question has been, the last 12 years, 11 years of my life. And the truth is that it's kind of like a puzzle. It's all of these things, the way that you think about money, the way that you think about our world, the frequency that you carry within you, as well as understanding what money is all about and how to do it.
Right. The good part is that not many people were able to come out of the financial crisis, the great financial crisis or 2008 subprime crisis, and it was a contagion which hit all across the globe. And
Yeah.
you were able to fight it out, come out of it, and build a solid life. In fact, International Women's Day is just a few days from now, and if I look as an ideal woman in that sense, to not be let down by circumstances, but to come out strong and very strong, and then be a inspiration, some sort of a leader in her own sphere, and adding value to people's life. And you are adding value in terms of the biggest thing that that makes the world go around is money.
Mhm.
So you got to show a lot of money to all our listeners today. So tell me, what is this fluid money blueprint creator through which you guide people how to attract money Tell me, I too am interested to attract money. As of now, I have not been able to do that.
Ah, amazing. Okay, well, let's talk about it. So for me, I could see that there was this mindset issue, and I started to dive into that. I was reading books, I was taking courses, I was, spending a lot of money trying to figure out the solution to the problem. And then I started to get into the law of attraction, and I loved the law of attraction. I think, it's the unseen. And I come from a background of science. I wanted to be a nurse when I was really young, and then I wanted to, be in environmental science, and I went to school for both of those things. So a lot of people can't wrap their mind around the law of attraction because they can't touch it. They don't feel it's tangible. So I went to work to find the tangible, the logical side of the explanation. And the Fluid Money Blueprint is really a roadmap or a blueprint. That's why I called it the blueprint, on how what are the step by step to actually attracting more money into your life. Because a lot of the law of attraction stuff is very vague, like meditate, or detach, or be grateful, and it goes so much deeper than that. So the first phase of the Fluid Money Blueprint is unlock your abundance blocks. So I teach you my method. It's a custom journal method on how you actually get to them. Because when it comes to money, if you would imagine this, there's a dam, this giant wall, and on the other side where the water is, that's all the desires that you have with money, all the money that you want, all the things that you want, all of that stuff. And you're standing on the other side of this dam and there's nothing coming through. Okay, so the first phase is all about recognizing that you built the dam, that, the way that you think about life, the way that you think about yourself, the way that you think about yourself with money, all of these things culminate this giant wall that blocks you from receiving more money into your life. Okay, so that's all about phase one. How did you create this wall, this block between you and money? And some quick examples of that, we were talking about women. And men and women kind of look at things differently. It's not good or bad. It just is the way
Yeah.
that we're programmed. So women are programmed to seek perfection. That we believe that there is this perfect woman that has it all together and does it better, and it doesn't exist. But that's the standard that we hold ourselves to. So to give that example, some framework in phase one, seeing that your standard for yourself is like through the roof. It must be perfect, actually blocks you from receiving more, because what you're telling your brain is, I have to do this, and the list keeps going on and on and on before I will receive money. And the thing is that our brain is designed, this supercomputer, to look for whatever we believe to be true. So then it will create this reality in front of you where you have to do all of those things. And when you're not doing those things, you're not receiving any money. Or if you're not up to your standard that's through the roof, you're receiving less money because of this mindset or this attachment to it has to look like this. It has to be perfect. Men are a little bit different in that way, that you don't believe a perfect person exists. So we can all take, a page out of their book and learn something about that. So that's phase one, is really understanding how you see your world. And it goes much deeper. Most money mindset coaches that I have ran into, and this is the whole reason I developed the program, they would stay on the surface. What did you learn about your parents or from your parents? Money doesn't grow on trees, and it's, you have to work hard for money. That is the top of that wall. And what happens is we start, peeling away the bricks, or, seeing that there's the bricks and starting to dismantle this wall. But we get, like the first layer done and we're tired. Oh, nothing's changing. And, it's really not that effective, because the deep-seated beliefs have more to do with who we are, or who we think we are, or whether we think we are good or bad, versus money itself. It really has nothing to do with money, but we've attached it to money. So that's the first phase, is understanding how you see your world. The second phase is actually dismantling the negative money perspectives that we have, because these are precipitating our world. They're creating our reality. So A lot of times people just say, in this industry, the coaching industry, just shift, just, shift your mindset, or just shift your frequency, just be positive. And people are like, how? And I relate this to, if you've ever left an appliance on at home. Women sometimes are notorious for this, but I'm sure men do this too, right? You leave something on at home and then you leave, and then you're away from home and you're like, oh no, did I turn that off? That curling iron, that coffee pot, the oven, whatever it is, did I turn that off? And you're racking your brain. And then all of a sudden you start to feel this fear bubble up in your chest, and your heart is pounding and it's in your throat. And if it's something that you're really afraid of, you're driving home to check, or calling your wife or your husband or whoever is at home to see if, that said appliance is on before you burn the house down, because your whole body is participating in this experience of fear. And when it comes to money, we do this. So we've had this trauma with money where there wasn't enough in our bank account, or we made a mistake with money, or something has happened in our life, and then we continue to relive it on a daily basis. And the way that our system is designed to protect us, not only our brain, but our body. That's why we have this fight, flight, or freeze response. Now, what's happening is we're having this fight, flight, freeze response when it comes to money. A quick example of this is, going to log into your bank account. This was me. I would go to log in. I would get to the sign-in page. That's it. And all of a sudden I would start having this response within my body. The fear would raise up. I would feel my heart pounding. I would feel my throat closing off. I would feel, this weight on my chest. My body language would change. And before I know it, I've exited out of the page and I've started to do things to force something to happen because of this fear. So every action was now driven by this scarcity or this limited mentality. And what we're putting into things, the energy or the frequency that we're putting into things, is the energy that we're calling back into our lives. So in phase 2, dismantling these negative money perspectives, what I do is I give you a method on how to stop it in its tracks. Okay, how to walk back the pattern so that you're not actually going down the same path over and over again. You know how we kind of do things that we don't mean to do? Why did I do that again? You can stop doing that. You can start choosing to do things a different way, one that supports where you're going rather than holds you back or holds you into this mindset that is limited or isn't actually working for you. And then the third phase is abundance on autopilot. How do we design your life? Because who you are is what you are attracting. So not what you want to be, in the future, but who you are now. And that comes from a frequency perspective, but also, the way that you carry yourself and all of these things. I'm sure you've met before, a salesperson where you couldn't get away from them fast enough, because you could feel that all that they wanted was to sell you something, right? And you could feel this gross feeling. And you could have also felt the opposite, where you've met somebody and you were just wowed by them. Whatever it was, you couldn't put your finger on it, but you just wanted to spend more time with them. That's because of their frequency and the intention that they're putting into these moments. And what we don't realize, one of the biggest learnings for me in this phase 3, when I built this, when I went through it, because everything that I teach, I personally do in my everyday life and have done for years. So in this phase 3, I walk my students through analyzing their day. And when I did this for myself, I'm a happy, bubbly person. And I am very, I'm very on board with being grateful and doing all these exercises and meditating and all this stuff. So if you would have asked me 5 years ago, what is your average feeling that you feel throughout the day? Mine would have been happy. I am happy. I'm joyous. I'm excited. I'm just this bubbly person. That's who I am. But what happened for me is I started to look at my actual day when I woke up, when I was getting ready, when, I did my morning routine, when I went through my day. And then I started to map out an average day for myself. And then I started to map out the feelings When I wake up, how do I feel? When I'm getting ready, how do I feel? When I'm doing this. And what I realized looking at that picture is what I thought was happening. This bubbly person that I thought was coming out was being suffocated in the anxiety. I'd wake up with this feeling of anxiety, like I'm behind the 8 ball. I should have woken up earlier. I should have done more. I should be already at the office. I should have already made phone calls or contact with somebody or done something. So I always felt this anxiety. So when I actually looked at my average feeling or frequency, it was anxiety and overwhelm. And that's what you're telling the universe on average is like, I can't handle anything else. And that's the other thing is, what do you say? So I found myself saying, I can't handle it. I don't have time for this. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. And I don't have enough of that, which are all limiting phrases. But also when you think about them, if I'm saying out loud, I don't have time for that. What does that say to the universe? You don't have time for more clients. You don't have time to take care of people. You don't have time for new people to come into your life. Okay, you close this bubble. She's not available for more. And that's exactly what it was doing. So phase 3, abundance on autopilot, is really getting into how you live your life. And who you are attracts more of the same. So we're attracting what we are in this moment. So how can we bring more joy, more excitement, more love, compassion, whatever it is that you desire? When I get to $1 million in my bank account or whatever your goal is, there's a feeling, there's a reason why you want it. It's not just the $1 million. It's so that I feel free. It's so that I feel safe. How do we bring those things into your life today so there's not that gap and you are attracting abundance on autopilot? And that's the Fluid Money Blueprint.
Nobody knows about the millions better than you.
Thank you.
JodieLynn handling $10 million under management. So that's a lot of money. So you are the right person to talk about millions and a lot of happiness for people. But JodieLynn, I just wanted to understand. You talked about 3 points. One was how you exactly see your wealth, and that is where you talked about perfection. Then you talked about dismantling, whatever the way you
Negative.
worries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the third part was, about abundance. And that is where your abundance consciousness comes in. But I'll take it one by one so that, a lot of people are not from financial background, but they do understand money as if they understand, themselves.
Yeah.
So, that everybody thinks that they know themselves, but actually, that's the most difficult thing to sometimes come to realize. Only time teaches you that. And the perfection part comes in there, that you got to see the world the way it is, and then you got to see yourself the way you are. And maybe there is the way we have been programmed by nature, by God, whoever it is, we got to see money as per that and make corrections accordingly. So how do you see perfection and money? And is it a roadblock somewhere, or how does one, especially you said a lot of women tend to be more perfect in their day-to-day life. That's the way they have been programmed. How do you strike a balance between attracting money as well as fighting with the nature that has programmed you exactly?
Yeah, I love what you said about getting to know yourself, because that has been the biggest key to this entire journey, is understanding how I operate. And the key, I think another key to add to that, is from a place of curiosity. This is how you balance it. Understanding how you're seeing the world. I was just doing some journaling yesterday, and I was writing down my intentions. That's one way that one question you can ask yourself, or one way that you can discover how you see money and some potential limitations that you have, is really write down what your goal is. I want $10,000 a month to come into my bank account, or I want 20,000, or I want whatever it is. And then while you're looking at that piece of paper, watch what your body does. Does your body curl forward? Do you feel this loss, or this, this feeling of grief or anxiety coming through? And what's that all about? And when you ask yourself, is it possible for me to achieve this? What's the answer? Okay. We don't spend a lot of time with ourselves anymore because there's, gadgets and TV and this and that. And, life has become so busy and we've been programmed to just keep doing, just keep going, just keep swimming, right? Just keep going this way, right?
Right.
Keep putting more effort in, keep doing more. And the really amazing thing that I have learned is that it's not necessarily about what you are doing. That plays a part, but the what actually matters less than the how you're doing it, how you're embodying the things that you're doing, how you're thinking about it. And so yeah, it's this culmination of, we think we have to be perfect, have it all figured out before we'll actually receive money. So challenge that perspective that I have to have all of my money blocks figured out before I will receive money. No, is that absolutely true? This is a question I ask my students and I ask myself multiple times a day. Is it an absolute truth? We look at our world, we look at the world that we've created, our past experiences, what's happening to us now, what people have told us, what we truly believe, and we think that is the world. But have you ever sat next to somebody at like a conference or a movie or whatever, and you're like feverishly writing notes? The speaker is so amazing, I'm getting so much. And you look over to your left and the person next to you is like not feeling it whatsoever. It's because of your perception versus theirs. Your perception is creating that reality. So when you start to ask yourself some of these pivotal questions of how do I see my world, that goal example, when you're asking yourself that question, do I believe that this is possible? And your body is saying, no, absolutely not. You've never done that before. You haven't had that many clients come in before. You don't have a big enough following. These are all limitations and perceptions that you've anchored into. But is it absolute truth? And what an absolute truth is when every single human on this planet, every single thing on this planet is ruled by this absolute. It is the same across the board. When you start looking at life that way, there are very few things that are absolute. And if one person has done it differently, has whatever, has done it the way that you want to do it, that means that you can too. You're not locked into doing it the way that you see over here, or the way that you designed in your past, or what's happened to you in the past. If one single person on this planet has been able to achieve it differently, it means that there's billions of possibilities available for you.
Right, JodieLynn. You see, the way I see it is you are a very strong person. You have
Thank
seen
you.
yourself from very close,
Mhm.
understood yourself better as you went along,
Mhm.
and you are a brave woman. You have got so much of courage to talk about your difficult time, your insecurities, how
Mhm.
you were facing, struggling to even open your bank account online, whatever fears you had. But not everybody is as strong as you are, Jordan. In this world, we have got a lot of people who live in their own closets, mind closets, and they never are able to come out. But
Mhm.
and many of them wallow in self pity, whether men or women. But
Mhm.
one thing is very much sure: they all have needs. They are very very talented people, and they also need money. Not maybe $1 million, but they do need money, and they do deserve the money that is always there on the sidelines, but
Mhm.
they don't know how to do it. But they are facing the same problems. You can say the money blocks, as you can say,
Mhm.
problem of seeing themselves as being perfect, want to be perfect, but
Mhm.
don't know that perfection actually is a very different sort of a word, and it's the way you perceive it.
Mhm.
Even the earth is not perfectly round. That's the way they go. If it were perfect, it would not do what it is doing today. You
Yeah.
know, if it did not have a what you call a flattening at the poles, it will not experiencing different changes in weather, seasons, and whatever it is. So, and if so that's the way
It's
it is. So
it's almost
one,
like perfectly imperfect.
absolutely. So
Mhm.
on all the 3 points, about seeing your relationship with wealth, dismantling yourself, your way you are individually, and conscious abundance and consciousness. How do you tell such people who live in their mind's closet to see things the way you teach your students who are fortunate enough to get a direct guidance from you? But
Mhm.
I'm talking on behalf of a lot of people in India and outside, because this show goes to a lot of many countries, more than 80 countries as such, and not just in India. But from that perspective, people who are not as open and as strong as you, how they, what way you will give them your tips in simple manner, so that they understand it, and actually start attracting money.
Well, shameless plug here. I have a free webinar that they can watch that goes into details on the mistakes that we make as entrepreneurs and the Fluid Money Blueprint, the actual framework of what I teach and all of that. And it's free. If you find me on Instagram, just go to my link in my bio and you can find it there. The thing that I want to say about that, though, is that I truly believe that God has made us perfectly imperfect. And I truly believe that God doesn't give us more than we can handle. And so those who are struggling to be courageous and look at all of this stuff, because that is one of the number one reasons why people don't look, is they're afraid to see. They're afraid to see how they feel or what they think or whatever. It's that fear of seeing all of the mistakes maybe that you've made, or the things that you've done wrong, or the things that you feel shame around. And if someone is struggling with that, I would remind you to look back in your life. And this is what I do often as well. I look back in my life and look through the trauma that I've been through, the hard times that I've been through. And come on, all of us have been through a lot, especially the last 2 years. And when I started to look back at these things, I started to see how strong I truly am. I made it through that. And
Yes,
I
absolutely.
really believe that we come here for a reason. So if this stuff is coming up for you, there's a reason that it's coming up for you. It's an opportunity to heal this trauma, an opportunity to create a new life. And I really don't believe God makes any mistakes. And that being said, you're here for a reason, and you were put here on this planet to receive abundance, to have an incredible life, to have an incredible experience. That's why the souls on the planet are here. That's why you're here. And it takes that first step of, I'm going to just dip my toe and see what it's like, but from a place of curiosity. I wonder what lives there. I wonder what I can learn about myself, and really realizing that even when you're in it, when you've gone through the hardest things that you've gone through, even though they left you bruised or a little bit broken or different, you got through them. You got
Absolutely.
through them. You're still standing. And for me, I'm so grateful for where I stand in this moment. So I wouldn't change all of that stuff that I've been through. So I want to remind the people who are afraid to look that there's nothing to fear. You've been given this challenge or this opportunity in your life because you were meant to. And that's one of the things that I love to do, is hold people's hands as they go through it, because often we aren't compassionate with ourselves. We're compassionate with the world. Your best friend can come to you and say, I'm so awful. And you're going to love on them and you're going to build them up and, whatever, all of these things. But when it comes to ourselves, we're like, oh, we're awful. I'm awful. We just end up getting the beating stick out and say, yeah, you are. No, having that space where you can be compassionate with yourself and learning how to do that, that's a skill. I call it being your best friend. When you can become your best friend and know how you operate, you have the keys to the kingdom, because you're the one that's creating your reality in the way that you are perceiving it, the way that you are thinking about it, what you are calling towards you. Now, if you go on a journey over the next, let's say lifetime, because it's never done. And You don't have to be perfect to start receiving, but you go on this journey of curiosity, of understanding how you operate and why you believe what you believe. Those are the keys to the kingdom. That's the keys to creating your own reality. And for me, I just provide the framework that I used that helped me get there. So I believe that you can find that courage, and you have to truly want to. That's the other thing, is you have to want to take personal responsibility for everything, not with a beating stick, but with this ability to respond. That's responsibility, our ability to respond. So, the difference between staying stuck here versus moving forward is really, will you take responsibility for the things that happened in the way that you're going to acknowledge them? You're going to see, okay, I could see, that with my fight with my husband, there's the story that I tell everybody. When my husband and I were first dating, he asked me a question. We were on the way to like a dinner or something like that. And we'd been dating for like a month or something. So really young into our relationship. And he was like, "Are you good for money?" And I was like, that was my response. And I was angry and I could feel it. And it was going to start a really big fight. And I like pulled myself back and I started to cry, and I don't normally cry. So he's like looking at me like, "What is going on? I didn't mean to offend you," or I don't, he can't read my mind. That's what we think, is other people can read our mind. They can't, not effectively anyway. So I said, "We'll talk about this later." And so I had this response. And because I have trained myself to look at these responses and challenge my perception, I went within and I journaled about it. Why did that make me so angry? Why did I have this response, like this visceral response in my entire body? Like I was mad and I was embarrassed and I was ashamed. Like, why did all these feelings come up? And really, it was the meaning that I attached to it. Oh, he's asking because it means that I can't take care of myself. He doesn't think that I'm good enough. He doesn't think that I'm responsible. All of this stuff came out. And then I did the courageous thing, because this is what relationships are built on, is communication. And it's even communication with yourself. So that communication with me, understanding how I was perceiving this situation. He's asking this because he believes all of this really awful things about me. And I could have stayed stuck there. And most people do. I could have stayed stuck there and it would have ruined our relationship. I would have held a grudge, whatever. But instead I asked him. I was courageous and it was hard, but I said, "Listen, Nate, I really need to ask you something, because the way that I perceive what happened versus maybe what your intention might be completely different, but I don't know." And he was like, "Oh, okay." He's a farmer dude. So like rough and burly kind of guy. And he's like, "Oh, okay." And I told him that. I said, "You asking me that means that I'm not responsible. It means that can't take care of myself. It means this and this and this." And he looked at me with this puzzled look on his face, and I'll never forget it. And he was like, "No, I just feel like I want to take care of you and I want to make sure you're okay. But we don't talk about money because you're not my wife. So I have no idea anything about money with you. Like, I don't know if you're good or bad or you need money or you don't, but I wanted to tell you that I'm here for you and that I can support you if you need support." And that's the way that he has supported in the past, is with money. So that's what he knew. But what I thought he was saying versus what he was actually saying was two different pictures. And that's when I could really see that my perception was what was distorting my reality. It didn't mean any of those things. And I could let go of them, and I could allow him to love me, and I could allow that trigger to just be disconnected, that button to be disconnected. And I could learn to really reflect on the way that I feel about things, and then start asking some questions. Does it mean this? Because often our perception is just based on a past limitation or something that we saw in the past or heard in the past or experienced in the past. But it doesn't mean that that's exactly what's happening today. It could be something completely different and beautiful, like that story I just described.
That's very smart of you to, you got a good brain. You immediately went into, it told you to go into a self-introspection mode to see things from that, and you did it very quickly.
Well,
You did it yes.
It was hours later. I can do it quicker now because
Yes,
I
yes.
practiced this. And that's why the course that I teach, the Fluid Money Blueprint in, it's called More. That's why the course is a 6-month container. Because you could go through all of the material in 4 to 6 weeks, somewhere in there. You could probably go through it in 3 weeks. It'd be very difficult to do it in 3 weeks. But let's say 4 to 6 weeks, you could go through the entire material. So what are you doing for the next couple of months after that? Practicing. It's like a thermostat. You are changing the frequency of your life. You're changing the way that you see things, the way that you automatically
So
respond to things.
what do you do to practice? You stand outside the bank and ask the money to come in to attract the
No,
money?
you live life. You continue to live life because our life shows us the things that we need to alter or change, or the things that we believe, because the perception that we have creates the reality. Our frequency is creating this reality. So if your reality isn't matching what you desire, there is a disconnect. That's the
Right.
practice, is living your life and being open to this. And then in the container, you have the opportunity to be held by the people in the group and me, and to go deeper and continue to practice, so that introspection is your first reaction, rather than months later, why didn't that work out? That becomes quicker. It becomes a muscle, and it's just trained in a different way than it was before.
Right.
Yeah.
JodieLynn, one thing I wanted to ask, right? Like whatever we were talking right now was for a lot of common people, people who uh, want to have some money in their lives, maybe become a
Mhm.
bit richer, perhaps, if possible. But you also tell a lot of entrepreneurs this particular, all your tips. Now, entrepreneurs are are people who know about business, who want to grow their business. So they know about money. Now, how can entrepreneurs subconsciously block money in their lives, or do not attract money in your life, and they need your help? That is,
Mhm.
how is this mismatch? How does this imbalance happen? And what do you do to correct that? How
Yeah.
can entrepreneurs not attract money?
Well, the same way that we've been talking about, because entrepreneurs are just people. And before they knew, business strategy, they were just a person who was learning business strategy.
Okay.
So there's different kinds of entrepreneurs. There's solo entrepreneurs. There is business owners who have people that work for them, and those are two completely different mindsets. Making 6 figures versus making 7 figures are two different ballparks. The challenges that you face are different. So entrepreneurs are just people, and all the things that we've talked about today, they're affected by. And I like working with entrepreneurs because they're typically more open. They're already on this personal development journey. Most of the time, they realize that it's not the ABCs or the third dimensional things that they're doing, the structure of things, but how they're thinking about it, how they're showing up for it on a daily basis. So it's easier to transition into this conversation about money, and really this, looking at how they're blocking themselves. But entrepreneurs do it all the time. I just gave you a few examples earlier. I've never done that before. That's a huge one. I've never, made 6 figures in a business. I've never supported myself in a business. Going from, I know, if you're an employee jumping into entrepreneurship, that feels crazy. Now you're going to support yourself. Now, you're not going to get a paycheck every 2 weeks. That's something that, my husband, over the last couple of years, he's like, you don't know what you're getting paid on a weekly basis. And I'm like, well, I have a rough idea. He's like, how do you live like that? That's too much uncertainty for him. Okay. But I have trained myself to not see that as an uncertainty, but rather see that as opportunity. Every week I get paid from my brokerage business. I get paid twice a week. From my coaching business, I have people who sign up throughout the month. So I could get paid, a couple, like this recurring profit throughout the month. So I could have different amounts every single week, but it's exciting for me. I've trained myself to see the excitement in that and the possibility in that, rather than, I've never done that. I don't know how to do that. I don't have that many followers, so that's not possible. That's what entrepreneurs really have to break open, is the way that they've been taught to do it versus the life that they want to live. A lot of times they're on opposite sides of the spectrum. I want to have more time with my family. I want to be able to travel more. I want to, have more freedom of my time, not be chained to my desk. Because as entrepreneurs, one of the first things that we learned, and a huge thing in our culture, is this hustle culture. You got to work, 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 work. For me, I was working 7 days a week, 12-hour days, and burning out. I couldn't sustain that. But that was my belief system as an entrepreneur. I have to work that much to get paid 6 figures. That's what I believed, but it wasn't true. But because I believed it was true, I kept recreating this reality over and over again. I truly believed that if I took one day off, then my whole business would collapse. So I couldn't take days off. I couldn't spend time with people. I was constantly rushing to the next thing because of this mindset, this belief system. And I was literally killing myself because I was going through adrenal fatigue and I was experiencing maybe mild depression, all of these things. But I wasn't paying attention to that because I was trying to force myself to do the things I thought I had to do. So when I really started to be introspective and identify, how do I see what I have to do? What do I have to do? What does hard work look like? And I started to question some of these things and start to imprint or to implant new belief systems. When I have a day off, this is a new belief system. When I have a day off, I'm able to rest and I'm able to rejuvenate. Every, major boxer can't go 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. They need rest. The body needs to recuperate. Why am I any different? Why should I think that I can't have that time for myself? And then another thing that, I have reframed for myself is, I am attracting what I am in this moment. So the more joy, the more excitement, the more peace that I feel in this moment, the more I am attracting to me. Okay. Another thing that I've implanted is, when I'm in that flow state, that creative state of the ideas are coming and things are flowing. You know what I'm talking about, right? That flow state, I get more done in an hour or 2 hours than most people can do in a week. I know that. I've proved it. So when I'm not feeling great, when I'm feeling this hesitation, this feeling of I'm just not in the mind space to create this new thing or to do social media posts or, build this thing, whatever it is, I can allow myself now, because I've implanted new belief systems and new perceptions. It's okay. Jodie, you can take the time that you need to rest, to relax, to be in joy, to go play, to go have fun, because all of these things will lead to that flow state. And when you're in that flow state, you can do more than most people can do in a week or 2 weeks. So that's a mantra that I continuously repeat to myself to calm my nervous system and be able to be in this moment with you or wherever I am and enjoy it rather than, being over there of what's coming next, if that makes sense.
Yes, it makes a lot of sense, JodieLynn. In fact, if you see it if I see it from my perspective, I see it that not only the tips that you are speaking out, your life itself tells us a lot, gives us a lot of learning in terms of how one should see money, how one should have a balance or a relationship with money. So I ask you on that. It's the last question I've got for you. Is that sitting from where you are at the moment, and you look at 2008, how do you see yourself from where your exact journey started? And how you felt then, and if you had lost hope, and how you feel now. How do you see it all? Because a lot of people lose hope many a times, and
Yeah.
that's very unfortunate. So I just want to try and give some hope with your example and the way you look at it at 2008.
Yeah. I wish that I could go back into 2008 and give that woman a hug, that young girl hug. Because I can see now how I put the weight of the world on my shoulders, how I chastised myself for a mistake that I made. And I have learned to see that part of my life with compassion, with grace, with love and forgiveness. Because it was just a mistake. It didn't have to define who I am. And that's one of the biggest things with money is we think that our mistakes mean something about our hearts, our souls, who we are deep down. It means we're a bad person because we've made this mistake. And, oh, honey, no. I tell my students this all the time. Think about your best friend. Think about your best friend, and if you were to call them and bare your soul, the things that you are the most ashamed about around money, would they tell you, yeah, you are a loser? Yeah, you're stupid. No! They would give you a giant hug and they would say, it's okay. You made a mistake. This is a part of learning. This is a part of, becoming an adult. This is a part of life. This is what we're supposed to go through is these events so that we can learn. And for me, I believe that it was all really, truly meant to be. If those moments wouldn't have happened, if I wouldn't have felt that shame, I wouldn't have had that drive to learn. I wouldn't have cared about the financial industry if that didn't happen to me. And I see now that every single thing that led up to the moment where we sit today was exactly on point, was on purpose, was supposed to happen, including that crisis, including those mistakes. And I am so, so very grateful for every single one of them, because I'm grateful for the life that I have here right now in this moment. I'm grateful for the things that I've learned, not only about myself, but the world, and the compassion that I hold now because of that experience for myself, as well as others that go through that experience or any sort of trauma in any arena whatsoever. So it was all truly meant to be, and I'm very grateful for it.
Right. And the best part was that you said, I would want to give that girl in 2008 a hug. And
Yeah.
everybody else does not have to wait so many years to come to that point to give themselves a hug.
Yeah.
Whoever is passing through a difficult time, they have to become their best friend. And the best person is for their best friend is themselves. And no harm in giving a self hug.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think something that I really want to mention is that we have this belief that to have a great life, we have to have money, and everybody's number is different, whatever
Right.
number. And then we
Right.
get stuck in this belief that I have to have all of this money, $1 million, a 6-figure bank account, whatever it is to have a good life, to have joy. But I challenge that because it's not an absolute. There is people who have nothing, who are dancing in the streets, who are so incredibly happy, who are, in joy and in bliss, that they feel taken care of. You look at some of the monks, there's just people in the world. You can find examples. So it's not an absolute truth. And also on the other side, people who are very, very rich, who have that bank account that you want, who are miserable. Okay. Because happiness, true happiness, peace, that feeling secure, it comes within you. And then the money, the resources, all of the money magic follows.
Wonderful. So I should say, a girl who shows a lot of money to a lot of people says money is not absolute. It's only a means to the end.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just an option. It's just a thing that supports you. It literally, if you think about currency, the currency of the world, every single currency in every single country is a fiat currency, which means it is backed by nothing, not gold, not silver, not any precious metal or anything like that. It's backed by the government's promise that it's worth something and your belief. It is simply just an exchange of energy, an exchange of love, you exchanging love, your energy for someone else's. And that dollar bill, whatever it looks like our Canadian money looks like Monopoly money versus the States. I don't even know what your money looks like, but every money looks different. That is just a representation of the work that you have done, the energy that you have put in to whatever. And it's passed back and forth. That's it. When you start to look at money as no longer being a god, we're not worshiping money. Money won't change our life. We change our lives. Money is just a byproduct of you living an extraordinary life. That's possible. When you start to see that, when you start to give with your heart and know that money will come in exchange, that's the life you were meant to live. And it's possible.
Absolutely. Everything is possible. And there
Yeah.
is, yes, everything is possible. and God has made a perfect world in the imperfectness that we see around. On
Mhm.
that note, JodieLynn, thank you very much for coming in. It's a wrap on this edition of the KAJ Masterclass. Thank you very, very much. Have a great day.
Thank you.